A&P students, I'm going to be walking you through this PowerPoint, which is a little bit about succeeding in anatomy and physiology, and just tips on studying, note-taking, and that kind of. So what does it look like to prepare for A&P before class? It's important to ask yourself these questions before you attend class. So this is going to be happening the day before your class or even the night before your class if you have half an hour or so. Ask yourself what materials you need to review before class. Should you be flipping through your phys book? Should you be overviewing different bone structures, different nerve areas, that kind of thing? Ask yourself, what are you learning about? Are you learning about the nervous system? Are you learning about homeostasis? Are you learning about total body water? Are there any questions from the previous lecture that you're still unsure about? Meaning, well, I'm not sure about interstitial fluid or intercellular fluid and what the difference is between those. That's an important question that you're going to want to ask your professor during class, or maybe even a fellow classmate that may understand. How will I be taking notes during class? This means, do you have printed off PowerPoint slides? Do you have a notebook specified for the class? Or are you using an app on your laptop? It is recommended that you take notes with a pen or that kind of thing on a tablet, not just typing them out. And the final question is, are you consistently attending class? It's easy to have gaps in learning if you're not planning on attending class. Learning A&P during class. Remind yourself to do these things during class, which is the morning of class. Again, you should not be waking up 5 minutes before your class, so you should be able to ask yourself these questions while you're getting ready. You should be using a consistent note-taking method. This means you don't have notes all over the place. They're in one specific area for you to go back to and refer to. This looks like during class writing down questions that come up during lecture. Again, so like the interstitial fluid versus the intracellular fluid. That's a question that you're going to want to come back to help fill in the blanks of your learning. Are you using technology as little as possible? This means that your laptop and phone can actually be distractions if you're using that for note-taking. Again, pen and pencil with paper is the best way of taking notes, or if you're using an iPad, make sure your notifications are off, and the same goes for your laptop. Interacting with a lecturer and professor as often as possible during class is super important. If your professor asks you a question, you should respond. Even if you're wrong, that's a way of learning. Write down examples and diagrams the professor may give to you. If they're giving you a helpful way of understanding how the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system are different, that may be an important diagram for you to write down so you can understand the flow of learning. Studying for A&P after class. Doing these things is not a comprehensive list to help you study after class, and it also might be different for each person. But using the 5 hours of note-taking is a pretty good guide to understand what you should be doing during class or after class. Using the 5 hours of note-taking. So for the first thing is recording. Are you actually note-taking? Are you getting down the words and the important information that's going to be on a quiz or an exam during class? If you're not doing this, this is the first place you should start. Are you reducing your notes? This is note-taking in your own words. So are you going back and maybe rewriting or verbalizing, saying out loud what you think your notes mean? And this is also part of reciting. Are you verbally stating the information? Are you talking out loud to yourself? Or you can talk to yourself just in your mind, but it's a way of you trying to teach yourself the information. And if you can't explain to yourself why something works, then that's a gap of learning that you can try to fill. Reflecting. Are you asking yourself what information gaps are there? You should raise questions for a tutor, a TA, or a professor. If you're not reflecting, you don't know what you don't know. And then you should be reviewing. Again, all of this is after class, the same day or night of your class. Before moving on to more information, make sure you understand what you studied. If I don't understand homeostasis, how am I supposed to understand what the sympathetic nervous system is doing to the body? You should be reviewing content in your textbook. The physiology textbook has great diagrams and explanations of bodily functions. I remember when I was learning about glycolysis and those kinds of things, it was really easy to get confused, but the textbook did a great job of breaking it down. What if you're having trouble learning and studying? Well, you should evaluate your actions before, during, or after class. If you're not following those things, right? If you're not reviewing the correct materials, if you're not getting your questions answered and you're not taking notes, those are areas that you should try working on. During class, are you taking good notes, are you physically writing or are you typing your notes? If you're just typing your notes, that's more of a passive way of note taking than writing it down and having those words kind of grain into your head for the first time. And are you using PowerPoints as a note-taking skill? This is a really good idea instead of trying to write everything down that the professor has on their slide. And is there something distracting you during class? Are you sitting next to a friend or are you sitting next to your partner? That can be a little distracting. And after class, you can ask yourself, are you studying the day or the night of class? Again, we only can hold 5 to 7 things in our short-term memory before it can get stored into long-term memory. If you're not reviewing those things and having those stored into your long-term memory, those are going to disappear and it's going to be harder for you to study when it gets closer to the exam. And are you coming up with questions? And are you using the 5 R's? If you are having trouble with this, you should visit the drop-in hours in the tutoring center located in Tower 2129. You could go to csstutoring.setmore.com for one-on-one help. This is online half-an-hour sessions. Or you could go to your TA or email your professor. They might seem a little scary or, I remember having a hard time reaching out to professors, but they really are there to help you. So this is a tool on taking notes for PowerPoint. We get a lot of pages that we can print off during our semesters here at Scholastica. I printed off all of my A&P lectures and I still had pages left over. So I would use this as a great way to study and take notes. So you can go into whatever PowerPoint you're in. You can go to File, you can go to Print, and you can go to Full Page Slides. When you select this, you can click Outline. And you can see here on the screen where it says, Welcome to Anatomy and Physiology. And this is my example PowerPoint and how it's broken up into PowerPoint slides like this and kind of an easier note sheet than the slides themselves. Again, this will not work on some of the PowerPoints that your professor makes, or it might have little gaps depending on how they outline their PowerPoint. But it's still a great way for you then to fill in the gaps. And you can see on the right, there are the PowerPoint slides. However, there are also lines next to them. This, instead of selecting outline, you would select the 3 slides underneath the options. It's underneath the option outline when you go to select. And you can also change the colors in your PowerPoint so that everything is a little in gray and black and white. Easier to see your diagram. So studying before an A&P exam. Ways and techniques to study. Use the Pomodoro method. Do 20 to 30 minutes of uninterrupted studying. This means turning off your notifications on your phone or putting your phone away, followed by a 5 to 10 minute brain break. This means you're not going onto your phone. You're stretching, you're getting a drink of water, you're having a snack, you're chatting with a friend. Use a focus app like Forest. It grows a tree every time you study, and if you leave the app on your phone or your laptop, it actually will kill your tree. Once you study a lot, you'll have a little forest grown. Draw diagrams. Use printer paper or your notebook paper and go through the systems. Again, drawing diagrams, use your notes. Use the textbook. Start with a big picture, then go into detail. Draw the body. Draw a big muscle, and then go down all the way to the sarcomeres. Use colors and have fun with it. This will help you remember. Teach someone the information. Help your classmates. Help your roommate or a partner, or explain it to yourself out loud. I remember when I was little and I was first learning about the body, I would read out this anatomy atlas that I had when I was little to my stuffed animals. Again, I was very young and I recommend that you interact with actual people. Interact with, change, and rewrite your notes. Reading and highlighting does not lead to memorization. You actually need to be using the knowledge in a way that you can further understand. If you highlight things, that's not going to stick in your brain.